Alright, thanks for tuning into another Strivemont video. And before we get started, you guys already know the routine. Hit the like, drop the sub, and let's get into it. So we're going to be talking about why Nokia is going to be mooning soon. So first things first, let's talk about what happened last week, which was pretty crazy. Alright, so as you guys can see, we had an enormous spike up. And I'm gonna just say right now, if you've been following Nokia for over a year or two, or even a long time, even holding shares for that long, seeing the price action we saw on Wednesday would probably be enough to knock you out. That's how crazy it was, right? Because if you follow Nokia for a long time now, you already know that it does not move. It is literally a dead heartbeat, right? So seeing what happened on Wednesday, I can't even imagine the face of those investors that have been holding for a long time, seeing it spike up to 979, right? Just for a split second and then straight back down to the death zone. Now, I'm gonna show you. I really want to talk about why this isn't a reason to sell, right? Because there's this downward pressure after it popped up. And before we get into Wednesday, let's talk about what happened Monday as we surged up a bit. And this is because we had a nice bullish report. So, as you guys can see over here, we had basically on Monday, Nokia raised to 70% higher because a bullish report from the Swedish analyst firm. So we got a nice report, and then ever since then we've been consolidating. And then Wednesday came, and this spike over here was not because of any news from Nokia that were bullish or crazy. This was because of the short squeeze hype that basically happened that during this week. So there's been about 3 to 4 stocks that I've been following that I've just seen nonstop cover on, which is basically GameStop, Nokia, AMC, and BlackBerry. I would say those were the main ones. And this spike was just led by Nokia's name being everywhere. Celebrities were saying it. Mia Khalifa. Imagine that. So Reddit, YouTube, it was everywhere. Like everybody knew Nokia within that week, right? So all this hype followed by the small, how cheap it is. How can you not buy it in, right? Especially seeing all these other stocks shoot up like crazy. Everybody decided, hey, I think over a billion, right? The volume was over a billion, right? Shares were being traded left and right. So this was like, an enormous amount of volume and just crazy hype. That being said, I don't want the hype to let you, there's more to the hype, is basically what I'm trying to say. So first things first, let's talk about the upcoming earnings, which I'm very bullish on. So to understand Nokia, you got to look at its competitor, which is going to be Ericsson at the moment. Matter of fact, there's three, and when it comes to 5G, you're looking at Ericsson, Nokia, and Huawei as top leaders, basically. Right now, we could already rule out Huawei because of the lack of trust for that company. And, a lot of, European countries and America, they don't want to touch Huawei. They don't trust it. They believe, it might be Chinese, whatever it is. That being said, now we're left with Nokia and Ericsson. And what happened is, Ericsson had its earnings and it had a nice gap up. And as you guys can tell, or if you guys don't know, whenever Ericsson does well, Nokia tends to follow it as well. So I'm only expecting Nokia to do better. And let me tell you why. So before we could talk about the future, we need to talk about the past. And one thing I want to do is go on to one max chart over here and talk about what happened on October 23rd, 2019. And we basically gapped down. And this is because dividends were reinstated, right? There wasn't a payout, and investors decided to dump their shares. And I don't blame them, right? The lack of innovation. The stock doesn't move. Why else would you continue holding on to Nokia at that point, right? If it's not making you money, no dividend payout. So it dumped. Ever since then, it's been basically flat, not moving until recently, right? So as we get to this earnings, one thing that I want to note out from this article over here is the possibility of Nokia reinstating its dividends, right? The firm also expects Nokia to reinstate dividend policy, which has been paused since summer of 2019. How can Nokia not surge? If they bring back dividends and how cheap it is, I can't imagine the amount of shares that are going to be collected if they bring back dividends. So talk about Nokia overall. They've been a huge phone company, and you can only get so far with your phones. It just becomes lack of innovation. And then I could see why, it's been on a decline. Microsoft screwed them over. They made bad decisions too. And it just became, as an investor, you don't want to put your money in something that really is not showing any growth or potential of having like growth, right? And that lack of innovation / the minus the dividends, it just went lower and lower for Nokia. However, the reason they got rid of those dividends, for those of you who don't know, is to basically fund their R&D for 5G and other stuff they wanted to do. So now they're bringing in the innovation, right? So as we begin to head closer to earnings, let's talk about its contracts. So 5G contracts, we now have 187 commercial 5G agreements, 139 being commercial 5G deals, and 44 live 5G operator networks. So Nokia is basically all around the world, global, Americas, Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, and continuing to be everywhere, right? We're now leading. I would say we're the leaders, right? One thing I also want to note too is this really bullish Bloomberg article that came out saying why GameStop may be a game, but Nokia sure isn't. And what they did basically is highlight that Nokia is not a pump and dump, all right? It's not a company that's just it's just hype and then it's back, There's more to Nokia, and what they do in this article is undermine, what it is that Nokia has been doing over the years and what potential growth and innovation, they have in bringing up their company, right, in the future. So this is a really nice article that I saw over here, and, I hope you guys check it out. And one thing I also want to talk about is, which was the innovation. This is an example of what they're doing, which is, Nokia and Elsa, I don't know if that's how you say it, Elsa, push network boundaries with world's first 1 terabit deployment. Now they're having crazy success with network capabilities. Now, as you guys can see over here, with words like world's first, that's what investors want to see, right? That's how they become more bullish and want to invest in Nokia, because they're doing world's first, world records, world breaking, right? So this is good signs of innovation. As I was saying, we're lacking a lot of it, and we continue to do, Nokia is doing a lot. Another thing I want to talk about is Nokia being selected by NASA to build world's first ever cellular network on the moon. This goes to show the amount of trust that Nokia was given, right? If you're going to be put on the moon, you have to have reliable, it has to be reliable, right? Your network needs to be reliable. Whatever it is you're doing on the moon, it has to work. It has to be almost perfect, right? Because just getting onto the moon is, already hard enough. So Nokia being chosen to do that, it just goes to show, the amount of reliability that their network has, what they're capable of doing, right? That being said, them being given that contract, no doubt in my mind that they will continue to be given other contracts because of what they could bring, right? You got to be the best to be chosen, and doing stuff like being put on the moon, being the first cellular network, this is crazy news. All right, believe it or not, I don't think it did much to the stock price when this came out, but trust me, long term, this is really good news for the company. That being said, one thing I want to talk about is as we approach earnings, what I'm expecting, right? So within the next year or two, I think the stock price will be around $20 to $25, but with the hype, right? These are what I think is going to really be good. With the amount of hype that we had, right, within this week and continuously, the innovations, possible dividend reinstatement, and the amount of contracts, I cannot see this going down, right? I cannot see this going down, right? And even this huge spike up, the amount of momentum in Nokia, just the amount of hype, it's literally everywhere. How can you not buy into Nokia? So when earnings come, I'm expecting a huge pop-up, a nice pop. And especially with Ericsson doing good, there's no doubt in my mind that Nokia is also going to have a nice gap up. That being said, one thing that I saw that was very interesting was on TradingView, and as you guys can see over here, this is from Gale Capital, if that's his name. And one thing that's noted, like, this is the overall Nokia chart, and as you guys can see, it's basically a descending triangle, and we had a nice run up. .com bubble, we're around $62, I believe. Back down, we ran up again. The financial crisis happened, and ever since then we've been on a downtrend, right? So looking at the chart, this becomes a nice resistance level, and as you guys can see, recently we popped over it, which is crazy news for in terms of technical analysis. So as we begin to get closer to earnings, with the amount of consolidation that's been happening, it being flat, coiling up, there's no doubt in my mind that within the next year or two, this stock is going to have a nice rally, especially when we break out of this resistance. So that being said, I want to conclude this video by saying, seeing what happened with Ericsson with its earnings, no doubt in my mind, Nokia is going to have the same result, but probably even better. Company's way undervalued. The possibility of them reinstating dividends, their contracts, what they've been doing, the amount of hype that Nokia gained within last week, earnings gonna be either a break or a go, and no doubt in my mind, it's gonna be a go. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something new today. That being said, you already know, hit the like, drop a sub, share the video, do what you gotta do. Hope you guys enjoyed it.